My name is Pastor Hal York, and welcome to Truth in the Trenches. Today we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 20. Do you see a man who's hasty in his words? There's more hope for a fool than for him. Another translation puts it this way. Do you see someone who speaks too soon? There's more hope for a fool than for him. One would think on a scale of, say, 1 to 10, of things one could do that would be considered harmful or foolish. Speaking too soon would rank pretty low on the scale, or being hasty in our words. But according to Proverbs, this is far more serious than we in our world of Twitter and Instagram and podcasts and blogs and Facebook and talk shows and cell phones seem to realize. We live in a culture that loves to talk, but sadly it's lost its ability to think, and that's not a good combination. Hasty in words. To speak too soon. What does that mean? Well, it could imply speaking before you hear all the evidence. It could mean promising something too rashly or hastily, or to make a vow too quickly, to speak without thinking things through, to speak without considering how others will be impacted by what you say. Is this hurtful? Is it insensitive? Is it gossip? Is it something told you in confidence not to be repeated? Now, growing up, we often heard, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. When you grow up, you begin to realize how untrue that statement really is. And I think Proverbs, when it talks about the tongue and words, really says that's not true at all. The reality is some people still feel the sting of words said to them years ago. Broken bones may have long since healed and mended. But that cruel word, that unkind word that was said maybe years ago still rings in the heart and in the mind and brings up feelings that we just can't seem to shake. The power of our words for good and evil, to help or to hurt, to build up or tear down, is stressed throughout the book of Proverbs. For example, we're told in chapter 15 that a soft answer turns away wrath. To speak too soon, to make promises you can't keep or have no intention of keeping. To speak before someone else has finished speaking means you're not listening to anyone else. To speak too soon, to speak when we may be silent, may be a wiser course of action. Chapter 26 gives us a similar statement. Do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There's more hope for a fool than for him. Wise in our own eyes manifests itself often in speaking too soon, thinking we have all the answers to all the questions, to spout off a lot of nonsense. Professing to be wise, we declare and show their foolishness. We have all at one point or another tripped over our tongues, spoken too hasty or too soon. And as we think about that times, it seldom conjures up fond memories. Is it any wonder James tells us to be quick to hear and slow to speak? In our world where the only binding agreements are those written down on paper and signed, this may seem an overstatement. But in Bible days, and as it was not that long ago in our own culture, it is still true in some places even today. Some tribes where there was not a written language, a person's words were their bond. As a matter of fact, if you wrote one thing and said something different, what you said would be taken as factual, not what was written. Even in our own culture, 100 years ago, words meant something. A promise carried weight. If you said you would do something, you did it. If you said you would be such and such a place, you would be there. Sadly, today in our world, it is a very risky thing to take anyone at their word. Words are cheap. They're easy to say, and are often used more to impress and to coerce than to help or bring truth. So they are hasty, and sadly, in many cases, meaningless. If I am elected, I will do such and such, so vote for me. If I am hired, I will do this kind of a job, so hire me. If you buy this, it will do all this, and will stand behind the warranty, so buy it. But how many times have we found out that those are just empty words? Meaningless. Few people honor their words anymore. You need it in writing, and even then it often means very little. Such hasty use of words leads to the breakdown of marriage, family, society, really any relationship. When our communication is selfishly motivated instead of other-centered, it becomes manipulative, dishonest, harmful, hurtful, and hasty. They become just tools to get whatever we want. The promises mean nothing. Our words mean nothing. But the reality is, the Scripture says, words always reveal the condition of our hearts. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, and what the mouth speaks are words. Such hasty talk, speaking too soon, comes from a heart that is selfish and thoughtless and godless. Our words matter. We need to let our yes be yes and our no be no. We shouldn't have to be told to swear on the Bible to tell the truth. There's nothing wrong with doing it necessarily. But we shouldn't have to do that. We just do tell the truth because that's who we are. When truth ceases to matter, everyone becomes wise in their own eyes. Speaking too soon becomes a way of life, a norm. Ever been in a room where everyone is talking but it seems no one is listening? That's the world we live in. That's the culture we're living in. But they're chilling words Jesus talks about. One day we will give an account for every idle or careless word we have ever spoken. So be quick to hear and slow to speak. Study how to answer. Speak the truth in love. Remember, sometimes silence is golden. Do you see a man who is hasty in his words? Do you see someone who speaks too soon? There's more hope for a fool than for him. May this truth guide us and guard us in the trenches of life as we seek to live our lives for the glory of God and the good of others. May God bless.